Call of Duty is a series not known for subtlety. After transitioning away from World War II with the critically and commercially successful Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, the series cemented itself as an over-the-top, action-oriented first-person shooter set in an exhausting universe where armed conflict, both sanctioned and secretive, threatens to plunge the world into chaos each year. Call of Duty established itself as a series with lore, as each new game tells a story that carries over the past, present, and future. Characters who fought alongside you gained mythical status, so too did the villains who wanted to destabilize governments, specifically the USA. The Modern Warfare series, including the reboot, did nothing for me, but Call of Duty Black Ops had an easier time holding my attention. That's because Treyarch dipped its toes into the psychological thriller genre. The first Black Ops was fun because of how it went full Manchurian Candidate during the backdrop of the 1960s, an era that just so happened to produce some of the best spy fiction material of all time. This was still Call of Duty, which meant you'd still get protracted gunfights, but everything was wrapped around a scrumptious layer of brainwashing, conspiracies, and Ed Harris screaming for you to tell him about the numbers. Black Ops sequels lacked the same charm as the original, given that they would leave most of the past behind in favor of a story set in the not-too-distant future. And because Call of Duty already mined future war with Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare, doing the same with Black Ops felt superfluous. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War puts things back where they should, as it sets the game firmly in the 1980s and has you working with a CIA-led task force in a mission to find and eliminate a dangerous Soviet spy. And as a result, the campaign is some of the most fun I've had with Call of Duty since the series debuted in 2003. A lot of credit goes to Raven Software, the studio responsible for fantastic games like Heretic, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Singularity. Treyarch put its energy into the multiplayer end of things, returning with new Cold War spins on its own modes like Nazi Zombies and Blackout. The campaign opens with the end of the Iran hostage crisis from January 20th, 1981. Black Ops alumni Frank Woods and Alex Mason accompany CIA operative Russell Adler to capture and interrogate two men who helped plan the kidnapping. After a dramatic firefight involving a cargo plane and an explosive RC car, one of the targets alludes that the whole thing was orchestrated by Perseus, a Russian spy thought to be dead. Given their blessing to perform, it's probably really illegal Black Ops missions by Ronald Reagan, whose appearance is given the strangest amount of misguided gravitas, to find and eliminate Perseus for the good of America. Adler's team includes Woods and Mason, both of whom have to be pushing 50 years old at this point, a few of Adler's contacts, and you! You'll generate a player character whose personality is defined by a dossier that specifies a gender, place of birth, skin color, and government affiliation of your choosing. You can write in a full name, but for the benefit of the voice actors, you'll only be referred to the nickname Bell. However, should you assign a pronoun, the character's dialogue will reference that whenever they speak to or about you. What really matters most about the dossier are the psychological profiles. These give your character a passive benefit in the game, like faster reloading, longer sprinting, and quicker ADS speed. A defining characteristic of Cold War's campaign is choice. Beyond those missions that have you running around and shooting guns at people, others favor a stealthy approach. These missions feature alternate paths, multiple dialogue options, and secondary objectives within play areas that are large enough for you to avoid combat if you want. Using a spy camera, enemy soldiers can be marked that makes them viewable at a distance and through solid objects. An awareness icon lets you know if soldiers can see you snooping around. Should you accidentally get spotted, a gunfight breaks out without penalty. The optional objectives are often placed along the central route, so they aren't too hard to miss. In one mission, I broke off from the main path just a bit to locate an informant to intervene on his torture at the hands of the enemy. I was then given a choice: set him free or kill him to prevent a possible second capture and another chance at giving up his allies. I chose to spare him, only to see him pop up later in a way that left my compatriots feeling more than a bit raw. Call of Duty's combat engagements are often relentless enough to the point of exhaustion, so I really appreciate Raven giving me the time to feel like I'm playing James Bond. Cold War is at its best when it lets you get into some spy hijinks with cool era-specific gadgets. In one situation, I was tasked with infiltrating a suspect's home in an attempt to locate a briefcase with sensitive information. Completing a mission usually takes you back to Adler's safe house where his crew commiserate on the events that transpired. Something that I really liked about the Safe House were the 2 side missions that require you to puzzle out information to unmask Soviet spies and hacking an encrypted floppy disk containing the location of a rogue agent. These missions have a soft lock and cannot be played unless you've gathered the necessary evidence found tucked away in the campaign's primary missions. It's a great concept, but they're quite limited in scope. Once you've gotten all the information needed to uncover the whereabouts of the target, you're sent to a standalone area filled with respawning enemies and a ticking clock that limits the amount of time you can spend before the target flees. It's too bad these missions make such little splash in the grand scheme of things. The puzzle portions of these operations are great, but the execution is just more of the same shooting gallery you've been doing already. Additional operations could also have helped add longevity to the campaign. For all the nifty things Cold War's campaign offers, it ends far quicker than I expected. The contrived final act is a wild ride because it feels a little too close to the original game, and it has a massive exposition dump that makes it very difficult to suspend any feelings of disbelief. All of this had me wondering if Raven ran out of ideas to keep the chase for Perseus going longer. The campaign is easily replayable because there are many opportunities to make different choices, but I was left wanting more. I suppose then, multiplayer is left to address the deficit of the campaign. As someone who spent more time online with 2019's Modern Warfare than any other game before it, I'm left feeling a little conflicted. Cold War's basic multiplayer offers modes I'm pretty familiar with and enjoy. Team Deathmatch, Kill Confirmed, Control, and Domination round out VIP, Search and Destroy, and Free for All. However, the absence of modes I liked, Infected and Gun Game, are absent. Combined Ops is entertaining enough if you're into big maps and larger teams, but the matches are only as good as their maps. Armada, which appeared on the beta, is fine, but because I've already logged time with it, I want to try other areas. It's been my luck, though, that everyone votes for it. The core modes, however, are really fun because the maps are great. Built around areas where Perseus has stoked the flames of conflict, you'll take sides as either the CIA or Warsaw Pact and shoot it out on the streets of 1980s Miami, my favorite, the crash site of a downed satellite, an urban zone in Moscow, another favorite, and a cartel mansion situated near an airfield. There aren't a whole lot of maps on the menu right now, but it's almost expected that more will be added throughout the game's lifecycle. I'm personally hoping they will toss in an area from the campaign designed to look like an American suburb tinged with the right amount of neon. Warzone, Infinity Ward's answer to the Battle Royale genre, has a place here if you're still into it, but Treyarch has changed the formula just a bit to debut Fireteam. Borrowing elements from Blackout and Warzone, you'll work with a group of other players in Dirty Bomb, a game type that has each team collecting as many units of uranium, either from caches or downed players, to activate a small nuke that creates debilitating effects for players caught up in the blast zone. I was never the biggest fan of Warzone because I don't care much for the Battle Royale format, but because Plunder and now Dirty Bomb give me an objective to complete that lets me keep playing until the match ends, as opposed to not winning the 1v1 in the Gulag, I'm more receptive to it. Dirty Bomb is the only Fireteam gameplay option right now, but I'm interested to see what other activities Treyarch comes up with in the future. Treyarch devotees are likely to congregate to their most notable online activity, Nazi Zombies. The mode never really held my attention, mostly because I never had anyone to play with and I tend to be wary of pickup groups. And while the mode went on to be this epic story within a story, I felt pretty lost by the fiction. Thankfully, the reason why there are Nazi zombies takes a backseat to fascinating wave-based gameplay built around the goal of uncovering a secret base while fighting and defending against the growing threat of the undead. Points are earned from killing these monsters and are used to repair defenses, earn new guns, and open up new areas of the map. Like the horde modes of yesteryear, Nazi Zombies is clearly one of those activities that is best enjoyed with friends. If you set your watch to Treyarch's latest drop of undead zombie action, then chances are you don't need me to convince you of its merits. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War looks great, but doesn't quite have the same wow factor as other PS5 launch games like Demon's Souls and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Partial fault can be placed at the feet of Call of Duty because these are games that move so quickly it can be hard to justify stopping to take in the sights. But that's another reason why I enjoy the infiltration missions, because their slower pace means you can revel in the exquisite recreation of Russian architecture as you sneak through the halls of a government building or walk the rain-soaked streets of East Berlin. The game runs really well too, though I did have an instance where the campaign crashed on me. Load times are fairly swift, and the game checkpoints often enough that little time was spent picking up where I left off. The only technical complaint I have is a familiar one. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War requires a whopping 200 gigs of hard drive space. Treyarch mitigates the download by letting you choose which parts of the game, campaign, multiplayer, and Nazi zombies, to prioritize, but holy hell, guys! This was one of the biggest problems with Modern Warfare, and it's a damn shame that once again, console owners are faced with the prospect of having to delete games and content to make way for its massive install. The DualSense controller does its best to simulate the practice of firing a gun thanks to the new haptic feedback system. Instead of tapping the trigger to fire a weapon, you'll have to physically squeeze it because of the amount of resistance programmed into the feedback. And what surprised me the most about this was how near true to life it felt. A friend once took me with him to a gun range some years back, and the feeling of pulling the trigger on a video game controller felt really similar to that of a handgun. The trigger that lets you aim down the sight also has a little bit of resistance, but it doesn't quite feel as realistic as the one tied to firing the gun. The haptic feedback and resistances on the DualSense controller are cool, but I was concerned whether or not extended play would make an impact on my hands. With the amount of time I put into the campaign and multiplayer, I never felt like I had to stop and give my hands a rest any more than normal. Your mileage may vary, and the game does give you the option to turn it off. This was something I ended up doing mostly for multiplayer because, as I learned from the hours spent battling out with other people in Modern Warfare, every second counts. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War offers a familiar package. A two-short campaign developed by a reputable studio and multiplayer that provides lots of activities to score points, earn weapon unlocks, and shoot other people in the face. Despite the length, the campaign is a fun departure from the Tom Clancy-esque tone of mainline games. It leans heavily into the aesthetic of the 1980s, from fashion to real-world advertisements. Yeah, it's kind of gross that Doritos earned prominent placement, but at least Raven had the foresight to include the vintage brand designs. Another thing the campaign struggles with is tone, be it the "hell yeah, kill 'em all" shouting of your allies as you're blowing away villages in Vietnam, to the very presence of Ronald Reagan himself. Some are sure to balk at the presence of Reagan because of the dark clouds that have become part of his legacy. Personally, I find it amusing when game developers say they're not trying to be political in making games, but when you put such a divisive figure in the same type of spotlight Treyarch has, you have to wonder at what point do you think they worry about tipping over the political apple cart. To be fair for a moment, at least Reagan's cameo in Cold War is far less egregious than Modern Warfare's shameful attempt at revisionist history. So it has that going for it, which is nice. DarkStation gives Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War for the PlayStation 5 4 stars.
Be ready. Be 1,000 Reds on the other side of this door. Cover me. Not a fucking word, Bill.